God has a name, can relate. That's our focus today. My son James, we named him after a good friend of mine that I went to high school with and went to college with, and we roomed together. Got a question. Do you think I named him because I thought he'd end up looking like my friend? Do you think I named him because I thought my friend was really, really handsome? No, I tell him he was ugly to his face, to be honest. But anyway, yeah, so I even if I describe him to you, sandy hair, the brown eyes, about 5'10", 175 pounds, you'd still say, well, why would you name your kid after that? I named my kid after him because of his character, of the fact that he was always there for me, that he would sometimes lay down his life for me, give up stuff. We went through a lot together, right? And so I carried that name James, and it meant something to me, the character and what I'd received from him all those years. And so I gave that name to my youngest son. We gave that name to our youngest son. And as my youngest son grew, though, he made that name his own. I could describe both Jameses to you, and they're really, really different. Though, thanks be to God, they got similar character, which is cool. You see, we tend to own a name by who we are in the essence of ourselves. Sometimes on this Sunday, all over the world, Trinity Sunday, we talk about what Nathan talked about, which is awesome, kind of describe God. He's all-powerful, he's omniscient, he knows everything, he's three persons, one God, and so forth. Today, we want to know God, and that's what we're going to look at. And the neatest thing is that we're going to look at some verses in the Old Testament where God first reveals his name. And the point to all this is he's got a name, and it means something, especially when you get to know him. And you've got a name, and he knows you. And he wants to do life with you. That's what we're going to talk about today. So I got two questions to get us into this. What is God like? There was a study done a while ago by in a college professor asked the students what they thought God was. First of all, how they would describe themselves, and then how they would describe God. And the crazy thing was, like 9 out of 10 times, they describe God just as they describe themselves. We tend to do that, right? We tend to think God's just like me. Well, he's not. He's different. Though we're created in his image, each of us bear the image of God, right? That's why we can have a relationship. So this, what is God like? We're going to look at that. And I'm under no illusion that we're going to answer the whole question. It's like when you get married. You really know the person that you're getting married to, but 10 years later, you know each other a little better. And 20 years later, you know each other a little better. You get to come to the very essence of who you are, right? And you grow in that, and that's the way it is with God, and it's an awesome experience. But we're never quite there. We never quite get done until we come face to face with him, and he fills us up in eternity, right? So we're going to look at what it's like to know God, what's God like, and then here's the second question. What does this mean for me? What does it mean in how I live my life? Those are two questions we're going to look at today. The context of this Old Testament revelation is the Mount Sinai. Now, what's happened is this. God has rescued his people from Egypt, right, the place of slavery. He's given them freedom and life. And Moses went up to the mountain, and he got the 10 commandments from God, came back down, and in that short time, the people had already turned away from God, were worshiping a golden calf, and were doing horrible, detestable things. Moses was so angry, he threw down the tablets and he broke them. And the context here is now he's going back up the mountain to get the 10 C's again. And just before that, there's these words that kind of describe the relationship that Moses has with God and what it means, and it kind of sets the stage even more for us. And these are the words. It says, the Lord would speak to Moses face to face as a man speaks with his friend. And then what God thought about him was this: I am pleased with you. That's the God talking about Moses. I am pleased with you, and I know you by name in your very essence. Throughout the Old Testament, Moses is held up as the one who was a friend of God. Do you want that in your life? Do you want that closeness with God? By the way, it's what we were created for. It's what we're missing. But I think every single one of us, all of humankind, is searching for this, to know God as a friend and to walk with him and do life with him and to know that he smiles on us. And the crazy thing is that in the New Testament, Jesus comes along and he says to those who follow him, he says, I no longer call you a servant, I call you my friend. So you see, we're going up the mountain with Moses and we go as one just like him. God calls us friends. Oh, and in our baptism, remember Jesus' baptism, God says, this is my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased. It's what he says to us in our baptism. This is my beloved Son, this is my beloved daughter in whom I am well pleased. For all those who have turned away from life without God to life with Jesus Christ and walk with him, whose spirit has touched their hearts and they live in this relationship of trust. The blood of Jesus has cleansed us, set us free, as we sang, God looks down at us and smiles and declares us to be his own dear children. In the Old Testament, Moses was unique, but not today. This is how each of us approach the revelation of God in his name. So Moses goes up to the mountain and is covered in this cloud. And I think that's the way it is. We're going to know God today, but there's always going to be mystery. It's like seeing everything in a cloud. It won't fully be revealed until the end of all things, the fulfillment of all things, when we see God face to face. We're with him in the new heavens, the new earth forever, right? And yet in this cloud, God comes to Moses and to us and reveals himself. That's the context. This is what it says. Now, I got to give you the whole picture today. I know it's a lot of stuff. Sometimes I think I'll do a forward roll or something to like reset it so you can get the next thing and not mush them all together, right? But hang in there with me today, okay? This is how it starts. Then the Lord came down in the cloud and stood there and proclaimed his name, the very essence of who he was and is, right? And he passed in front of Moses proclaiming, Yahweh, Yahweh. Before this time, he had always been, who's your God? Oh, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, my dad's God. That's what that was like all up until this time, right? The God who rescued us out of Egypt, well, that's cool, but what's your name? Well, I don't know. Moses said, I want to know your name. I want to see your glory. And so God, who walked with Moses and called him a friend, says, okay, this is my name, Yahweh. And if you look at that, it's a form of the Hebrew word to be, and this is what it means. I am who I am, or whoever I am, I will be. And we look at that and go, okay, big deal, right? You can always count on God to be who he is. He will never, ever be different than his character. You know anybody else like that? Do you always measure up to that? God always measures up to his character. Before he begins to describe himself, he says, you can count on me. We kind of yawn with that, but that's pretty awesome stuff. I can't tell you how many times, I put my foot in it, right? In every I should have had a V8, right? Nah, man, I blew that sucker, right? I don't even live up to my own character, who I think I am sometimes. God always does every single time. You can count on it. You can bank on it. It's who he is. He will not deny his nature. He will always be who he is. That's awesome stuff. It's like I want to sit there a minute with you and just be in awe of that because you don't find it anywhere else. Isn't that right? You don't find it in any other person. Oh, we can begin. Because after all, we bear his name. We're part of his family. We have his nature within us. We bear his image. We are image bearers, so we can begin. We can begin to always stand up and live in our character in him. But we'll never quite get there, will we? But God is always there. You can always count on him. That's the foundation for everything here. He goes on, he says this, He calls himself the compassionate and gracious God, and this is the very first thing he says, so it's pretty important. Compassion here is a feeling word. In the Greek, the New Testament, the word is spaligno, and it means you actually feel for the other people around you so that your innards actually move. So it's this feeling word. In the Hebrew, the root word here is a mother's womb. So it goes like this. Let's see here. Yeah, so go ahead, put the words up there. So this is the word is used in these verses. Can a mother forget the baby at her breast and have no compassion? That's the word. On the child she is born, though she may forget. Read the rest of it with me. And here's one more. As a father has compassion on his children, so Yahweh has compassion on those who fear him, that is, hold him in awe and walk with him in this promise, huh? Now, I know we read those words, and unfortunately, in our time, and maybe in every time, at least I think about how I haven't measured up as a father. And I think about how much hurt and pain and struggle there is in our world because none of us measure up, and some actually betray the fact that they're moms and dads. And I don't know if you're struggling with that, or even online listening to me, I don't know if you're struggling with that, but what this is talking about is that God is our perfect mother and father. And he has the perfect feelings. He hurts with us. He moves with us. He feels what we feel. And he's there for us in this way. This is the picture that we're given the very first word. We all long to have someone who's there for us in that way, right? God is that one. And he's Yahweh. He will always be who he is. Isn't that awesome stuff? And it's tied to another word, the compassionate and gracious. Now, compassion is a feeling word. Gracious is like an action word. Right? In the Old Testament, God saw his people in Egypt, and his gracious action was to get them the heck out of there. Huh? And time and again, he sees his people suffering, and it's his gracious action that pulls them out of there. Graciousness, this undeserved love, this actions of grace, always based on the compassion, the feeling of God towards us. He's always working to help us. And he's Yahweh. You see, he never changes. Go ahead. And this flows into the New Testament with Jesus. I think this is so powerful to see. The book of John opens like this. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling. Literally, the word is tabernacle. Now, I'm not sure those online or those really know what that means, how that ties into the Exodus text. But in the Old Testament, in the wanderings of Jesus, where they worship God was in a tent. They call it the tabernacle. God dwells with his people in the tabernacle. What is this saying? That Jesus, who is God in human flesh, dwells with us. He tabernacles with his people, and God never changes. And what did Jesus do? Think about it. I was reading the other day, the widow of Nain. She had lost her only son, and she didn't have a husband. She was all alone. There was nobody to care for her. And it says there that Jesus hurt for her. He grieved for her. He had compassion on her. And so what did he do? Raise him from the dead. Lazarus, he weeps with them. God weeps with you. That's his compassion. I think sometimes we don't understand that. God weeps with us. And so he raised Lazarus from the dead. Jesus wept over what sin has done to us and to our world. And so he went the way of the cross. That was his gracious action. He rose again. And he'll make all things new. You and me and all people. And we'll live with him in a new heavens and a new earth. He will make everything brand new, you see. His gracious actions are always tied to his compassion. It goes on in John, from the fullness of Jesus' grace, we all have received one blessing after another. You see, everything flows into Jesus. This Yahweh, God, is Jesus in human flesh. Right? You see this everywhere. The lepers, he has compassion on them, and so what he does, he heals them. The father whose daughter had died, he had compassion on them. What did he do? He raised her from the dead. He looks at the sick and the hurt and the dying that flocked him. He had compassion on them, and he helped them. He weeps over Jerusalem, and he throws away the cross so that they might be saved. You see this everywhere. You think it's any different for you. God is Yahweh. It doesn't change. No matter what's going on in your life, no matter what struggle, no matter what foul-up you might have, caused by you or by those around you, he has this compassion. He feels it like a mother, like a perfect mother and father. And he acts on your behalf. He's always there. So this goes on then. It says that God is slow to anger. Now there's a couple words here. First of all, he's slow. It doesn't happen very quickly. It's kind of interesting. It says in the Bible that God is love. It nowhere says that God is anger. So this is, he is slow, he is long-suffering. And yet at the same time it says he gets angry. We sometimes don't know what to do with that. As some of you know, my wife died of cancer a few years ago. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, to be exact. You know, when somebody tells me they have cancer, it's so personal now. I get so angry. And when someone tells me they have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you can put that on steroids. It's so personal. I get so angry with it. It's wrong. It is wrong. Think about God. He gets angry over the things that are not right. He gets angry over creation that is all fouled up because of sin. He gets angry because our lives are all screwed up. Sometimes because of what we do, sometimes because of the world we live in. He gets angry about these things, and it drives him to action. Even the way of the cross and the empty tomb. Go ahead. God's anger, somebody wrote this, his steady, unrelenting, unremitting, uncompromising antagonism to evil in all its forms and manifestations. I don't know about you, but more and more as I open my eyes in the world I'm a part of, I see horrible, terrible things. The violence in our world, how we treat one another. There's no day you can open a newspaper or get online and not see this. I read an article on sex trafficking the other day. You know, more people are in slavery today than any other time in the history of our world. The broken lives and the brokenness all around us. You think God doesn't care about that stuff? Do you care about it? He gets angry about it. Now, we have to be careful because when we talk about God being angry, it's not like us. We kind of get mad. We go nuts, huh? No, that's not what it means. No, God is his steady, unrelenting, unremitting, uncompromising antagonist to evil in all its forms and manifestations. He is always measured in his response to do something about it, you see, even the way of the cross. For you and for me, in the book of James, it says, even the righteous anger of man does not do the will of God. So we got to be really careful with that anger stuff, huh? But we can stand with God because, after all, we're image bearers. We have a spirit within us. We can stand with him against everything, against all of its evil, steadily, unrelenting, unremitting, uncompromising, antagonist to evil in all its form manifestations. We can stand with him there. And we can pray to God what that means in our life. Because we are image bearers. It can make a difference in our life because we stand with God. Does that make sense? No matter what evil has touched you or our world, God's not going to let it stand. He's going to work against it until in our lives and in our world until he finally comes in all of his glory and everything will be set straight. Go ahead. Anger is Yahweh's response to evil in our world, and it's a good thing. Don't get it mixed up with our anger because we go mad and we don't do anything with it. But God's response is always right and just and good. He goes on here. He said he's abounding in love and faithfulness. So everybody, you're sitting down. So just kind of move your head a little bit. Don't throw your arms around. I might hit somebody. I'll turn around a little bit. Just take a break with your head. Because this is a lot of stuff, but I want to see this whole picture, okay? And he kind of begins something new here, all right? Abounding in love and faithfulness, abounding, all right? So it's who God is love, right? This word love, we always think of it as an emotional term, but it's not an emotional term here. The word is chesed. I think I had that up there. The Hebrew word is chesed, and it means unfailing love. You can never translate it with one word. It's an unusual word. So unfailing love and covenant loyalty. Covenant is a promise. So what it means is that God always keeps his promises towards you. He's Yahweh, right? He never changes. He always keeps his promises towards you. And it's almost a play on words. The emet is trustworthy or truth. It has the idea of reliability. When I was in high school, when I was in college rather, I think I was a sophomore or junior, I drove a 65 Volkswagen, and it was great, right? Great gas mileage, didn't cost me much money, except it kept breaking down. And this one time I had a shop, actually it was a shop, do my clutch. And that clutch broke down like 10 times before it finally got fixed. And I was traveling from Huntington Beach to where I live, to where I went to school in Cal State Fullerton, to see a girl up in Rosemead, San Gabriel, where my folks lived. And so I was all over the place. And every time it broke down, I'd call my dad. My dad, who works 6 days a week, 10 hours a day, and he would come no matter where I was on this great route, right? I mean, all over the place. And he would come, and I kept, by the way, if you haul a car, you don't use a chain because it'll snap, right? You use a hose. I kept the stinking hose in the back of the car. I really did, in the back of the Volkswagen. And he'd come no matter, day or night, he'd come and help me drag it to where I could get it worked on again. Wow. That's unfailing love. That's keeping your promises. That's God towards you. And because His Spirit dwells within you, you can begin to practice that with those around you. God's unfailing love is His faithfulness. Go ahead. And God's faithfulness is His unfailing love. Chesed and emet are about God's loyalty. How He never, ever abandons His people, but He is faithful to the bitter end, no matter the cost. And as always, this flows right into the cross of Jesus Christ. Faithful to the bitter end, no matter the cross. No matter the cost. Huh? In that first chapter of John, it says this: for the law was given through Moses, the Old Testament words, right? Grace and truth. And the amazing thing here is that the Greek corresponds to the Hebrew of unfailing love and faithfulness. They came through Jesus Christ. It all flows into Jesus and what that means for us. And He will always, always keep His promises to you. Even the great promise, when He comes in all of His glory and makes everything brand new. This goes on, maintaining love. Notice he mentions love twice. That's powerful. Maintaining love to thousands and forgiving wickedness, rebellion, and sin. King David in Psalm 51, he wrote the psalm right after he had committed adultery and murder. Let me say that. King David, the guy who whacked the giant, everybody said he's a great guy, he's God's apple after God's heart. He committed adultery and he committed murder. He had the husband murdered. And when he came to his senses, he wrote Psalm 51, and he said, have mercy on me, O God, according to your chesed, according to your unfailing love, according to your faithfulness, you see. Maintaining chesed to thousands and forgiving wickedness, rebellion, and sin. Where do you need to hear that in your life? My son, I shouldn't say who, but one of my sons, when he was really small, he'd get into trouble, he'd screw up, and I'd call him on it, right? I mean, really just kind of, I should have had a V8 type of stuff. And the very next moment, he would turn around to me and ask me to do something for him. Or, it was crazy. And I thought that was the craziest thing, but finally I understood that he got the chesed stuff. He knew that I would always forgive him and love him and be there for him. And all of a sudden, I felt really good about it. Where before I thought, what are you talking about, man? You just screwed up. And I thought, no, I get it now, huh? That's David. That's me. That's you. And God is always faithful. He will always keep his promises. He will always forgive wickedness, rebellion, and sin. He doesn't say it's okay. He doesn't say go ahead and do it. He gets angry about it because it always hurts us. It always brings pain and harsh things into our lives, into the lives of those around us. And he works to help us to get rid of it. But that doesn't mean that he won't forgive us. And but like a resurrection to empower us to begin brand new. Where can you show that kind of a heart to those around you? Because after all, you bear his image, right? You're baptized in his name. You're his own dear daughter and his own dear son. So forgiveness grows out of God's name, his character. It flows from Yahweh's inner essence, the deepest, truest parts of his being. Go ahead. Yahweh does not reluctantly forgive sins against himself and others. He does so eagerly as a manifestation of his character. He's not grudging about this, guys. He wants to forgive us and restore us and renew us and empower us to begin brand new, to living in his image and as part of his image bearers. This is the last section here. So blink your eyes, hang in there with me because I think this is great stuff. It says, yet he does not leave the guilty unpunished. He will by no means clear the guilty. He punishes the children and their children for the sin of the parents. And I put in their fathers to the third and fourth generation. So there's a lot of questions when we read this. I want to start with the last part. And then we'll go to the first part. It says, he punishes the children and their children for the sin of the parents to the third and fourth generation. What's this talking about? Does this mean that because of the sins of the parents, he throws lightning bolts at the kids? No, it can't mean that because in the book of Ezekiel and other places, he says specifically that each of us is responsible for our own sins. He even talks about sons and fathers and mothers and daughters there. So that can't mean what that can't possibly be what it means. And I think the better way to translate this, he punishes the children and their children because of the sin of the parents. When I was in high school, freshman year, I played with this guy, Danny, and he was the best white athlete I ever knew. Honestly, he was amazing. He's a running back, and it always took 3 people to bring him down. He had speed, and he had strength, and he had power. Later on my freshman year, he started doing amphetamines, whites, and he kept, and I couldn't figure out what he was doing. And in my sophomore year, he didn't play, but we had this altercation. We had a fist fight because I was throwing him down the toilet, and it was crazy stuff, and I was involved in all this. By my junior year, he was dead. He'd OD'd. And you think, what a jerk, right? But his dad was a meth head. It was what he grew up with. Now, was he responsible for his own actions? Absolutely. But wouldn't you say the sin of the fathers had something to do with the way he went in life? See, God, that's what God's saying here. And by the way, I put fathers up there. I'm not trying to diss moms at all, but study after study shows how important fathers are in their children's lives. Now, moms, I know we have wonderful single moms and the like and all those things, and you're going to be awesome. God's going to be there for you. Your Spirit's going to empower you and all those things. But if you're dad and you're in your children's life, I got to tell you how important it is. And what God is saying here, if these children that grow up in places in homes that have turned their back on life with God, man, they're going to have it hard. We know that statistically, overwhelmingly, if a person doesn't come to faith in Jesus Christ by the time they're 18 years old, statistically, it's not going to happen. Now, God does his thing. He has miracles. But it's so powerful, moms and dads, in the life of your child to have them know Jesus and what it means in their lives. That's what this is saying here. But notice here also, before this it talked about loving kindness to thousands, and many exegetes say that we ought to add, the understood thing here is thousands of generations compared to the 3 and 4 generation here, which means that God is always there to break the cycle. God is always there sending his people into the lives of those who haven't had the opportunity to know Jesus in their homes. He's sending them to him so that they might witness to Jesus Christ. They might show them what that love means. They might show them the heart of God. That's what we're about, you see? So finally, this is how God's grace overcomes it. It only goes to 3 or 4 generations compared to thousands of generations. And yet, this first part, yet he does not leave the guilty unpunished. He will by no means clear the guilty. We get a little squeamish with that, but what that's talking about is justice. God's going to fix this world. He's going to make it right. His justice will reign. We know that is a good thing. When we see horrible things that happen to people and to ourselves, we cry out for justice. And we can know that God will bring justice. For you and I who are in Jesus, our punishment was laid on him at the cross, and we were washed clean in his blood, and we're empowered to live in a different way. And yet finally his justice will reign over all the earth. It's what the resurrection is about. It's the beginning of even overcoming death. He will overcome all things and will dwell with him face to face in a new heavens and a new earth forever. I just got through reading this book. I call it my stupid books, stuff that I have to read that's not really hard on the head, but this one wasn't stupid at all. I just happened to pick it up, and it was, this woman wrote it about the Lithuanians who, in 1941, Stalin, about 40% of the population, he ripped them out and threw them into Siberia. Almost all of them died there. And she went and she interviewed those, just a few came back and they passed down their stories. And so this book is about those stories in a book form, right? And it tells about the horrible things. I mean, your sense of justice is just, you're crying out. You're crying out in your soul that these things are wrong as horrible things happen to these people and they die by the millions, right? And yet through it all in this story, there's a mother who she respects every single person and shows love to them even when she only gets hate in return. And the night she dies in Siberia, her daughter is out and she comes upon this young KGB soldier and she says, "I hate you." And he says, "Yeah, I hate myself too." And he lays out his life to her. And he's drunk and he's crying. And she puts his arm on him and says, "I'm sorry." And then through that, he finds a doctor and some of these folks are rescued. In the back of the book, it says that's a true story. At the end of this book, it says the most powerful army there is the army of love. To love your neighbor, to love your friend, to love your family, to love your nation, to love God, to love your enemy. Because it's the only thing that won't ever be overcome. God will have his way. Because of his love, all things will be made right. And right now we can join him. Join him on this ongoing mission to redeem and restore all things. Because after all, we bear his name. We bear his image. We are part of his family. We are his sons and daughters. God's justice is a good thing. God's end goal is a world with no evil. He will continue to punish sin in each and every generation until sin is completely gone. Yahweh's justice isn't about retribution or payback or some kind of God-sized vendetta. It's about the healing and renewal of the world. It began with Jesus' resurrection. continues through us until he comes in all of his glory. God is forgiving. Sin is not. He has a name. Can you relate to him? And through him with those around you? Would you pray with me? Father, we praise your name, that you are the one who never changes, that you are always true to your character. Lord, we've gone through so much here, such amazing things that you've laid before us today. I pray that for every single one of us, that your Spirit might touch us with one of those, might touch our heart with that reality, what it means for us personally, and then allow us to live in that reality as one who bears your name and your image. Pray in your name. Amen.